This is like little pieces of gold being released free. So listen carefully to what's being said. Today's a special day because we got the actual manufacturer of the iconic drink with us, and he's going to explain in detail why the drink is what it is, what makes it different from everything that's on the marketplace, and how he came up with it and how it's been created. Look forward to it.
You know, early on when we launched our $99 mineral diet, we decided that we needed to have a protein product to ride along with that because so many people need that as part of their daily routine. I had been using one for almost 4 years now that another company manufactures. And, you know, it was a mixed whey and plant protein product. I mixed it with milk and fruit. I did what many people did. And I got great benefits from it. But nothing has even come close to the benefits that I've experienced with Helix Iconic. I know we've got some leaders in the field that are starting to receive that product today. I'm excited about that. And we decided when we were going to do a protein product that I wanted to go back to Greg, who I had met several years before. He had a company that he had been working with that had a cultivar that he helped to bring to the market. And this particular grain cultivar had some very, very unique properties. And we're going to just discuss, he and I, very informally, and just kind of cover some main points that I think are interesting.
Kirk, thanks so much for allowing me to be part of the training today. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm really glad to have you on board. So there's been an awful lot of information over the years circulated, you know, about omega-3 fatty acids and what they can do for people's health. And, you know, we've seen so many things about the various benefits, everything from reduced risk of heart disease, you know, up through joint relief and other things that people have had, you know, digestion, inflammation, the list goes on and on. I think for me, what I've really experienced is the mental aspect of it. I can't believe the amount of stress reduction that I feel. I know everybody's body is different and, you know, my story may not relate to everybody, but what are some of the things that you've seen in terms of the benefits, you know, of the omega-3s?
Yeah, so, well, it's interesting when you talk about omega-3s, and I don't want to get too deep in science today, but I do want to point out, though, that there are multiple types of omega-3s. You have ALA, which is alpha-linolenic acid, and that comes from a plant, and in particular comes from the source that we have for our grain. So that's plant-based omega-3. And from that plant, we get DHA and EPA. Those are the omega-3s that are associated with fish oil. So you have fish oil or sea life, could be krill and other things, sea life omegas, and then you have plant-based omegas. And what we're learning so much about, and the American Medical Association has weighed in on, is that the sea life omegas really don't provide very much benefit at all. And it really comes down to the only essential omega-3 is plant-based ALA, which is in our the Helix Iconic product. And that is the main part of our proprietary grain. So what we're it's just the need to know and understand that all omegas are not created equal. As a matter of fact, DHA and EPA come from ALA through cell division. It splits and converts. Actually, on our product, and I'll get into this a little bit, why it's so special. ALA, during cell division, converts into hundreds of proteins and enzymes. One key enzyme that you should take note of is an enzyme called telomerase. Telomerase nurtures and conditions telomeres. So telomeres, if you're not familiar with telomeres, do a little research on telomeres. Just very quickly, telomeres are posts on the end of your DNA strand. There's two on each side. And so during cell division, you lose just a tiny little bit of that each time. And we're making new cells at the rate of 100 million an hour. You know, there's billions every day, trillions in 90 days. So your body your body replaces each and every cell in your over a 90-day period. So in 90 days, you have a completely new body. And so the telomerase conditions those telomeres, makes them long and supple, and that's an indication of longevity. If your telomeres are, and you can, by the way, you can send out, you could take a little saliva test, and you can send it off for about $75, and they will tell you what your telomeres look like. But telomeres are conditioned by telomerase, which comes from our product, and that keeps you healthier and younger longer. That's the longevity that we say on our product, is that you have greater longevity. And that's one of the reasons. There's many reasons, but that's an important reason why. So
basically you're saying that the Helix Super Grain that we have in the Iconic product literally can make you younger, or can keep you at the age that you're at longer than otherwise. I mean, not that we're making that claim, but there's a serious anti-aging aspect to this, backed by the science, because of the ALA's effect on telomeres. Is that it? That
is absolutely correct. And I'm not saying, hey, you're going to look in the mirror, you're going to be 20 years younger. But what I am saying is that you will live longer and you will live healthier. Because when those telomeres get too short, they don't work properly, and then you get anomalies in your cell construction. And so that's one of the things about ALA. Now, the most important thing about omegas and protein together is that your cells are constructed of those two ingredients primarily: fats, lipids, and proteins. So if you have the highest quality fat or lipid that you can get, and plant-based ALA omega-3 is the highest quality fat that you could put into your body, and you have a good complete protein, and in our grain, the Helix grain, we have complete protein, meaning it has all the amino acids just like chicken, beef, or pork. So you get a complete protein, and we add extra protein to this formula as well. So you're building the healthiest cells that your body can build. And based on that, everything else is going to work better. Your nutrition uptake will be better. If you're on medications, those will work better. And you will be able, most importantly, to fight disease better, because you have the healthiest cells that you can have.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is that Jolene is going to look even more like a movie star than she does now.
No doubt.
That's awesome.
No doubt.
Yeah, I tell you,
Yeah.
I'm excited. It really could be the perfect food. And I know that the calorie count, isn't high enough probably for people to live on it exclusively. But it could be, certainly the perfect food supplement that I've ever seen, or just food product, to keep it simple.
Well, when you consider what's in the grain, we talked about omega-3, but there's also omega-6 and omega-9, which are also very important omegas for us. You have complete protein that I mentioned, but you have more antioxidants than blueberries. And antioxidants are so critical because they go around and round up free radicals that are in our body and remove them. They're kind of a toxin, but they cause problems, a number of problems within the body. So it's important to get rid of them. And that's what antioxidants do. They collect those they call them free radicals, and they remove them. Then you have calcium. You have more calcium in it than milk. And what's important about that is the calcium that is in milk is bound together with the proteins in the milk, so your body really doesn't absorb a lot of it. With our product, you don't have that situation. So the Helix grain has more calcium and more usable calcium, which is so important to us as we get older, especially women, osteoporosis and those kind of issues that so many of us, but in particular women, have. And this calcium will help dramatically to solve the osteoporosis problem and keep our bones strong. You know, you hear about when older folks, they fall, they say they fall and they break their hip or they break their leg or whatever. The truth is, in many cases, that their bones break and then they fall because they don't have enough calcium in their diet. So this calcium, this is very rich in calcium, and it's the right kind of calcium for us. So it will help keep our bones strong and reduce osteoporosis. Then you have fiber, and there's two kinds of fiber. You have in our Helix grain. You have soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So there's not a lot of soluble fiber, but there is some, and that soluble fiber goes into your bloodstream, and that is incredibly important because it takes impurities out of your blood. That's what the the fiber, the soluble fiber does for us. The insoluble fiber, on the other hand, does not get absorbed into your bloodstream, but stays in your gut. And I'll talk more about gut health and why that fiber is so important for us here in a minute. But in addition to having those components, we also have 50 other phytonutrients. And one of those key phytonutrients is called phytotryptophan. Phytotryptophan is important for us because, Kurt, you talked about stress relief. That's one of the things that phytotryptophan does, is it helps our body deal with stress. So it is a stress reducer. It tends to help with anxiety or depression, and it just increases our emotional state, which is obviously important. It can help to some degree manage pain. I wouldn't call this a pain relief scenario, but it does add to your ability to manage pain. It also creates serotonin, and serotonin helps us to sleep better. It's a neurotransmitter that helps us to sleep better because we're being relaxed, and our stress is relieved to a great degree. So now we can promote serotonin and we get better sleep. So that is those are the interesting and so vital things about phytotryptophan. But we have other I mentioned that the protein that we have in the Helix grain is complete protein. But in addition, we have several other of the amino acids, including L-arginine. And L-arginine is important for us because it's a vasodilator. So what that means is it helps our veins to open. And when our veins open, and it does that by relaxing the muscles around your veins. That's how it does it. Because when we're stressed and under pressure, our muscles actually kind of clench, and that keeps our veins smaller. And when we relax those muscles, our veins can open up better, and we get better blood circulation, and our blood pressure goes down. So that's another benefit of the Helix grain, is that it reduces blood pressure.
It is by far one of the most comprehensive products that I've ever been exposed to. And I'll tell you what's so interesting is that, we're hearing this, phytotryptophan, we're hearing, L-arginine, which a lot of us in nutrition are familiar with. The interesting thing is these are things that are found naturally in the natural components of this product. They're not sprinkled and added in after the fact, as is every other product that I've seen on the market. So that's the most intriguing thing to me, that this really is, whole food based nutrition. I mean, if we sat for hours and days and weeks and thought, well, how could we, come up with natural components that would have these benefits? I don't think we could find anything better than this, attributable not only to the careful ratio, but also the fact that the cultivar itself, which is really, it actually is a version of the chia plant, but a special version. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Greg, about why the Helix Super Grain is different than just plain chia.
Sure, absolutely, be happy to. Well, first, let me tell you a little bit about my history, and I probably should have started with this, so I apologize if I jumped the gun on that a little bit. But I spent my entire career working with food products, either making them or selling them, or in some way moving forward with a variety of food products. And I started my career early on selling processed foods. And these would be your basic frozen entrees, or, chicken that has been pumped with various salts and other chemicals, not knowing at that time. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken here, so I've been doing this for over 30 years. And so early on, I thought I was doing a service to people by bringing them foods that could last longer and taste better, and fit the what at that time was a demand. And I was focused really more on food service, which is restaurants and hotels and those kinds of things, hospitals, schools, unfortunately schools. And so we were creating products that had these long-lasting attributes. Okay, now we know. And I started to learn this, about 15 years ago. Halfway through my career, I said to myself one day, I said, boy, oh boy, I mean, I looked at the rate of illness in the country, and I started to study, what causes these problems, and everything came back to diet. What are we eating? What are we putting into our body? And I realized then that I was part of the problem. I was making people sick. So I stopped doing that, and I started focusing on what are the foods and what are the ways that I can help people now be healthy, make up for the sins of the past. And so then we started to look for, and I rely on I'm not a scientist, but I rely on the scientists that are involved with us as partners in our company. And what we did was we found out about this miraculous grain called chia. So we set out to work on understanding it. And this is, before it was popular. This is really at the very beginning of the chia. Everyone's heard of chia to some degree, and this is really part of the reason why this whole chia craze got started. So many years ago, we went to Mexico. We found out that there was very little of it, but it was predominantly used in this little town called Acatí, Mexico. So we went down to Mexico, Acatí, and we met with the one they called the keeper of the seeds, because he had, hundreds of varieties of this chia. So we said, well, we need to understand the nutrition of it. So the scientists took it all back and started to analyze what was in it. And we were, incredibly surprised and elated by what we found. But the problem was that we found that some of the seeds had really good nutrition and some had really poor nutrition. So there was no, hey, every seed's the same. They were all different. So we really, evaluated every single one of them, crossbred some of them, through natural selection, just pollinating flowers, basically. And so we took ones that were, let's say, high in omega-3, but low in protein. And we, created a cultivar that is now the cultivar, or the standard of identity of the cultivar, of that cultivar. Because, in order to keep replicating the exact same nutritional profile, you have to cut from a plant like they do with avocados, or potatoes. Those, they actually, because every time you plant a seed, the growth of that plant is going to be different than its parents, just like us. I mean, we're different than our parents. That's true in plants as well. So you can't really take cuttings of this plant and make them grow. It doesn't work that way. So we said, all right, well, we're going to use that benchmark of nutrition that we developed, and going forward, that is going to be our standard of identity. So when we grow our product, if it doesn't meet that standard, we reject it, and we only use that which meets our benchmark or our standard of identity. That said, there are other chias, and lots of them on the market. Most of them are whole seeds. So when you go to the store and you see a bag of chia, and early on, by the way, I was involved in commodity chia sales. So we had this, and I said, well, I'm going to sell this as a commodity because it was just starting to really take off. And so I would talk with Garden of Eden and a number of, that's just one brand that I'm sure you heard of, but we had Spectrum. There were several brands that we were working with, and the only thing they were interested in was the price. They didn't care about the nutrition. Did it look like a chia? Yeah, it does. Okay, that's all I want. Just send me a container of that. Containers, 40,000 pounds. Send me 40,000 pounds because I'm going to put it in my bag. All right, well, that's great. That's all well and good. But as a consumer, you go to the store and you buy a bag of chia, you don't know what you're getting. The time you get it the first time, it might be really high quality nutrition. The next time it may not. But the problem is you just don't know, because there's no standard of identity except for the Helix grain, and we use our benchmark for that standard of identity so that you have confidence that what you're getting is the nutrition that you're expecting. And that's really important. So that's how, we came upon it. We were actually tipped off by an old scientist who was getting ready to retire, but someone who was, discovered this, and he called us to bring this to the world, really. So that's what we're doing, and we're so happy that we were able to make that. I was able to make the connection with Kirk, and now that we are part of Helix Iconic is just a dream for us.
Well, let me tell you, we're delighted as well, my friend, and I'm even more delighted after using the product myself for a week. I think it's just tremendous. Now, there's also some processing involved too, right? Isn't there with the super grain chia? In other words, there's some things that you're doing with those seeds that separate us from everybody else in the market, isn't there? Aside from
Yes.
the origin of the cultivar.
Yep, that's absolutely right. So, if you have had the opportunity to work or take or try chia in the past, typically you'll take the seeds, you'll put them in a glass of water, and you'll notice that some of the seeds float, some of the seeds sink, and you have to stir it around. And then in about 15 or 20 minutes, all of a sudden it'll get, thick and gooey. The seeds stick together. So you have to sort of beat it around again with a spoon. And then ultimately the seeds hydrate, and you get this glass of a kind of a gooey, gelatinous substance with hard particles, the seeds themselves, in the center of the fiber. Yeah. So, and then the problem with it is that the seeds are very hard, but the fiber, which is on the outside of the seed, they call it a polysaccharide, but it's fiber on the outside of the seeds, it is extremely sticky. So when you eat a candy bar with it, or you drink it, or you in some other way consume it, you're picking seeds out of your teeth all day long. It's a nightmare. And the other problem is it sticks in the sponge, it's in your sink, it's in your glass. I mean, it's everywhere. So there's usability problems that we discovered and, using it ourselves, saying, okay, what can we do to make the experience for consumers much more pleasant than it is today? So we created a process using nothing more than time, temperature, and shear to make the seeds into a light, fluffy powder. And when you think about, and this powder, I'm telling you, this powder, you could rub this powder in your fingers and no oil comes out. You can take a handful of it and you could give it a blow and it'll float up into the air and you float into the wind. It's that light, fluffy, it's free flowing. It doesn't clump up or stick. You can sprinkle it out real easy. And if you were to fill a glass, let's say a clear glass with the powder, you would have to look at that powder and understand that 1/3 of that glass is actually oil, because there's about 30%, 30 to 33, actually 28 to 33% oil in there. And you would be amazed that this powder could be so light and fluffy and still have all the oil in it, and a glass of it would represent 30% of that glass would be oil. It's remarkable. So we got a patent on it for doing that, which is great. Now, here's the important thing about, you asked about the differences. Well, the usability is a big difference, because you could stir, this into a glass of water and there's no swelling, there's no stickiness. That fiber has been transformed. It's all there. We don't add anything. We don't take anything out. It just acts a little different when you put it in water. And so we have that, and the usability, the experience with this product is far different and far superior than what you get from just a regular Chia. That's number one. Number two is we are able to make the particle size very, very small. It's under 35 microns. And I know that doesn't mean much to anyone, but here's how I would relate it. The human cell, and there's a variety of different cells. Human cells range in size from about 2 microns to a little over 100 microns. That's a cell in your body. And our product is under 35 microns. So that should give you an idea of how small those particles are. And you have all the nutrition in each particle, which is also amazing. So when you start to consume your iconic beverage in the morning, as you are taking it into your mouth, the nutrition is going into your body immediately. You're not digesting it, first. You're absorbing those nutrients immediately. And so that's the other benefit is, and the true benefit of that size is you get it hits your system quicker, but more importantly, you use 100% of it instead of in a regular Chia scenario where you might pass quite a bit of it unutilized because you have to break the seeds down, and some people have trouble with that. There's diverticulitis that people have trouble with. So there's a number of different issues, again, with the whole seeds. So that makes our product different.
So not only is it incredibly unique and more fun to drink and eat, but it's also a lot more absorbable and bioavailable than what you would find elsewhere. And that's probably the reason why I'm getting the results that I am, so quickly, because of that bioavailability. Well, I tell you, it's even more exciting than I thought it was. I actually learned a lot today. I took 6 pages of notes here, just so far.
Yeah.
One last question I want to ask is, there's also a prebiotic component to this too, that I was reading about, which I find very interesting because it fits in with our company mantra of trying to set the body up with the right, the right terrain. to be able to take in nutrition and also, expel the toxins. And so what do you know about that, about the prebiotic aspect?
Yeah, and this is more important today, and it's always been important for us, but today it's based on the whole COVID-19, and now people are starting to say to themselves, hey, I need to boost my immune system. I need to start eating better, eating more correctly. And there is a wave in I would say a paradigm shift going on right now, and people are looking to be healthier. So when we talk about prebiotics, first let me explain that the prebiotics go with probiotics, which we have too, but we add. They're not necessarily available in our product, but that's part of the Helix Iconic mix. So, but prebiotics are the food, if you will, that gives us great probiotic production. So probiotic are bacterias. And, for years we've heard about taking, a 50 billion probiotic pill every day, and that, improves the health of your gut, which it does if you get the right ones. A lot of them actually get killed in your stomach because of the acids. But if you get ones that are encapsulated and can make it into your intestines, then you build flora. They call it flora, and this is they eat the prebiotic that we have, which is our fiber, and that fiber supports the growth of those bacteria, those probiotics. And when you have a healthy gut, your immune system is healthy. 75% of our immune system is in our gut. And I would say if we took, if we looked at the people in this country, especially eating all the processed junk that's on the market today, you would find that people's guts are in disrepair. They need to have a great prebiotic, which feeds your probiotic, and then you have these colonies of bacteria. So if we take in a foreign bacteria that can hurt us, it can't get into our intestinal lining because there's so much probiotic that will kill the unwanted bacteria. So that's why our immune system is in our gut, and that's why it's so critical to have a healthy gut, because then you can resist the cold, the flu, all of these bad bacteria that are trying to infiltrate our body. And that is more important today now. It's become more important to people. So when you're talking about the Helix Iconic, powder, and you're telling people about it, boosting immunity is a key point. There's so many points about that. I mean, there's so many ways you can talk to people and what's so important about this, but that is definitely a big one, especially today.
The other thing that I really want to, have you talk about just a little bit is the broad range, safety usage of this product. I mean, we see that, there's certain products that appeal to certain age groups, for different reasons. And then invariably with nutrition products, it's, infants shouldn't use this, or this is a product that really reaches across that market spectrum more than anything I've ever seen before, and actually has proven benefits across that market spectrum. I mean, there's a whole mental, cognitive, health aspect that weaves itself into this grain as well, and could become very significant for even prenatal ladies and young infants. And you've looked at some of that. Now, we're not going to make those claims, and we're not going to, promote this to, to babies and prenatal women by any shake of the stick. But maybe you could just touch on just briefly some of that area there.
Yeah, and I would promote it to prenatal and and babies actually. And I'll tell you why. My daughter, this is very close and personal to me. My daughter had a baby about 2.5 years ago, and prior to, as soon as even prior to that, because we all eat this, powder. We call it powder. We eat it every day, and without exception. And I just finished. I made a shake, out of the Helix Iconic powder. I made a shake, and I put some strawberries in it, just to change it up a little bit. I like to change it every day, put some other fruits and things in it, but you don't have to. But anyway, we've been eating this for years and years and years. And when Brittany, we found out she was pregnant, of course we were so excited. And so she really started doubling down on consuming the product during her pregnancy. And when, we say that this will make your child smarter and will make your child larger, because you're giving the body the right components, cell building again. I mean, whether it's muscle cells, bone cells, brain cells, you're giving your body or your child, your infant's body, the opportunity to build the healthiest cells as well. So they grow faster, they're stronger, and they're smarter. And so, she doubled down and making sure that she was getting plenty of it, enough for her and enough for the baby. And then as soon as, of course, she was breastfeeding, so she was getting the product through her mother that way. And then when she could start to eat foods, that was part of her regimen and her diet, and still is. And right from the start, and even today, she is in the 98th percentile in terms of size. My wife is a early childhood educator. So she's got her degrees in that subject. So she's worked with babies and young children her whole life, and knows the subject extremely well. And my granddaughter, now at 2.5 years old, is at about a 4-year-old level in terms of her mental growth. She can start to read at 2.5. She's been able to. She knows all her letters. She's putting letters together. She can identify words, and she is, remarkably ahead of schedule. Now, is your granddaughter going to have that? Is your baby going to have that? I don't know. I'm not making any claims or promises here. I'm just telling you a real world example of my own experience. And we had so much complete confidence in this product, and, knowing that babies need omega-3 big time, because that's what is in our brains. Our brains are about 60, they're primarily fat, and about 60% of it is DHA. Now, you just heard me say that DHA, from fish oil doesn't do much for us. And we, believe that 100%. And without getting too much in science, just let me say that there is a thing that's called the blood-brain barrier. That means that things in your bloodstream, some things can pass through this barrier into your brain, and some things cannot. It really protects our brain from getting things in there that don't belong. Well, DHA is a long chain triglyceride, and ALA, the omega that we have, acts as a short chain triglyceride. Short chain triglycerides can pass through the blood-brain barrier into your brain. Long chain triglycerides cannot. So DHA cannot pass into your brain, but how could our brains be almost all DHA? Well, we believe that it is because ALA goes into your brain and through cell division in your brain creates DHA, and that's where it comes from. So, and as children, babies are growing, their brains are growing so quickly that they need to have omega-3s, not just for their brain, but that's a real critical part of it, but for the rest of all the other things that we've been talking about. I'm sorry if I've been long-winded on this.
No,
but,
it's actually been tremendous. I mean, the amount of information is incredible. I do have one question that one of our doctors texted us, Dr. Cook, and he's asking, what is the source of the plant protein?
Oh, the source of the plant protein is pea protein isolate and oat. So we get our, we all have heard of, plant pea proteins and rice proteins and other sources of protein, which are good. I mean, they're good. Problem is they don't taste that good sometimes, and they have kind of a coarse texture. So what we use the oat for is to soften the pea protein, and the combination of those two really makes a very nice mouthfeel and a very good tasting protein, plant protein.
Well, I tell you what, that was tremendous. I'm fired up. I know everybody else is too. I thank you so much for taking the time, Greg, to join us. I'm sure we'll have you back again soon.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm so excited, you guys, to be part of such a great organization, and I know that you're going to have so much success with this. It's really fun. It's exciting, and I wish you all very well, and good luck to you.